Most of you know that the war in Ukraine is extremely controversial. That's a very complex conflict that's going on for more than 10 years, and now I'll try to share my perspective and my experience as a Ukrainian who had to flee from war. Even though the war actually started in 2022, the conflict was going on for almost 8 years, since 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea. But back in 2022, Russia started a full-blown invasion, occupied almost 25% of the country, and left 10 million or more people displaced. Back in the days, that led to a huge wave of patriotic feelings among Ukrainians. Ukrainians were lining up to be drafted to army and to defend their country. But over the years, the situation changed dramatically. Now, the draft in Ukraine is very problematic. Every day, military people have to catch people in the streets for them to be drafted to army. Some people die while being drafted. The situation is awful. But how did that happen? How the situation evolved from people lining up to defend their country to people hiding from the draft? So first thing you need to know about Ukraine and Ukrainian government is that Ukrainian government is extremely corrupt. Even though at the beginning of the war, the vast majority of Ukrainians tried to ignore that and thought that they are defending their own country and they can figure out the corruption later, now in 2025, it's super hard to ignore. Even though most Western countries help Ukraine by providing funds, ammunition, etc., Ukrainian military people still have to buy everything themselves. On top of that, the management in the military is awful. People are always sent to suicide missions that are impossible to complete. That's not my first-hand experience because I was not drafted to army, but I have a couple of friends in the military and they all have this experience. On top of that, even though there is a full-blown war between Russia and Ukraine, Ukrainian government continued to earn off of Russian gas for almost 2.5 years after the war started. And on top of that, cultural situation in Ukraine is very problematic. Even though about 50% of the population speaks Russian, even though they are Ukrainian, those people are being bullied by the government. And that's not a new situation. That's going on for years. On top of that, back in 2022, Ukrainian government refused peace talks with Russia. As far as we can tell from the comments that we got from American officials and Ukrainian officials, Russia was ready to end the war back in 2022 and they were ready to move back to their positions. They were on 23rd of February 2022 and the only thing they wanted as a must-have for Ukraine is not to enter NATO. Under the pressure of American and British administration, Ukrainian government refused those peace talks, and since then Ukraine lost dozens of cities and hundreds of thousands of lives, all while corruption became way worse. So even though the vast majority of Ukrainians hope for some justice and wish all the best to their country, they hate the government. They don't expect anything good from the government, and basically for now the only thing they expect or hope for